conversation around climate change. Right? Overall, 15 out of the 20 most destructive California wildfires in history, they've reportedly taken place in the last 10 years, with those now including the Palisades and Eaton fires. And with that, Climameter, an international initiative focused on understanding extreme weather in the context of climate change, they just released a new rapid attribution study finding that human-driven climate change has played a role in these latest fires. And specifically here, claiming that temperatures are warmer by up to 5 degrees Celsius, the air is 15% drier, and conditions are 20% windier. And then going on to say, he described the strengthened winds, higher temperature, and drier conditions triggering January 2025 California wildfires to human-driven climate change, and natural climate variability likely played a minor role. But then also with that, this climate-driven disaster is actually forcing the government to walk back environmental protection. With, for example, Governor Gavin Newsom now signing a broad executive order suspending state environmental rules for rebuilding after fires. And with that, we've seen outlets like the New York Times write, the order is likely to be the first of several permit streamlining measures issued by state, county, and city agencies in the wake of the devastating fires across greater Los Angeles. This executive order reportedly covering all of Los Angeles and Ventura counties and directing state agencies to coordinate with local governments to remove or expedite permitting and approval processes during rebuilding. And possibly most significant here, they've waived permitting requirements under a landmark environmental law called California Environmental Quality Act, otherwise known as CEQA, with them explaining that disaster-driven suspensions of CEQA, they normally require rebuilding property owners to at least make some effort to comply with the law, while the order announced yesterday was a full waiver. But also, it's not crazy that Newsom's doing this. I mean, California has already been dealing with an affordable housing shortage, and these fires, they're obviously going to make it worse. And in fact, we're now already seeing reports of wildfire evacuees facing price gouging in the rental market. But with that, we saw California's Attorney General vowing in a news conference this weekend that anyone seeking to take advantage of the wildfire victims will be held accountable, and saying, we've seen businesses and landlords jack up the price. It's called price gouging. It is illegal. You cannot do it. It is a crime punishable by up to a year in jail and fines. And with that, you also had the AG issuing a warning to others seeking to profit from people suffering, namely looters. With it even being reported there that National Guard personnel, as well as city and county law enforcement, have stepped up patrols even as firefighting efforts have continued. And actually, as of recording, around 29 people have reportedly been arrested in fire zones, including one burglary suspect who allegedly dressed as a fireman to try and evade authorities. Though also, to be clear, not every arrest has been for looting, right? Some of the arrests are for curfew violations, with the context being there that any area under a mandatory evacuation order is off limits to non-first responders. And in other areas, a 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. curfew is in place. But then also with that, besides being a very real issue, looting is just one topic that's now become a source of political disagreement. With it, for example, becoming part of an ongoing back and forth we've been seeing between Newsom and Elon Musk. Right, and here we saw that after Newsom said in an interview that there would be zero tolerance for looting, you had Musk resharing a post wrongly claiming Newsom and California Democrats literally decriminalized looting, barring police from arresting looters and prosecutors from prosecuting them. Now he's opposed to looting. And then to that, you had Newsom writing, stop encouraging looting by lying and telling people it's decriminalized. It's not. It's illegal, as it always has been. Bad actors will be arrested and prosecuted. Also, I will say, besides this specific interaction, Musk has been accused of using his X account to stoke fear and anger in relation to the fires, with people saying that he's spreading misinformation and resharing and commenting on posts, casting blame on everything from DEI to immigration. And as far as this whole back and forth with Newsom, you had things like, for example, the governor hitting back yesterday at Musk's statements, blaming Democratic officials and all levels of California government for alleged mismanagement, making the fires worse. Or for example, claiming that environmental regulations, including one meant to protect an endangered fish, had helped create a water shortage that has hampered firefighting efforts, which notably is also a claim we've seen President-elect Trump make. But in response to all this, you had Newsom yesterday sharing a clip from a live stream that Musk did where he spoke with LA firefighters, in which one seemed to push back on water availability being an issue.
All right, what about water availability? Was water availability, I understand that was like not an issue in Malibu, is that correct?
Was it water?
Well, yeah.
So there was water. We have several reservoirs that encinos that we use a lot. Now, just an example, if we have one building burning, we could flow 1,000 gallons a minute on that one building with the hose lays that we put in to stop it. You can imagine 1,000 gallons per house we couldn't do, right? So the amount of water we're flowing, there really is no water system that's going to keep that pace.
Right, and so basically he's saying that the issue was just that firefighters had just been using so much water that the system, or any system, couldn't keep up with demand. And notably, that tracks with what experts have been saying, with one expert even reportedly saying that no water system in the world could have handled these fires. And so with that clip, you had Newsom writing, Elon Musk exposed by firefighters for his own lies. Though this also notably as Musk has received praise for Tesla reportedly deploying 8 Cybertrucks equipped with the Starlink terminals to help with internet access. Now also with this whole situation, I gotta say, it really does feel like an all hands on deck paycheck situation. Like seemingly everyone is trying to pitch in. I mean, even had Ukrainian President Zelensky writing on social media, "Today I instructed Ukraine's Minister of Internal Affairs and our diplomats to prepare for the possible participation of our rescuers in combating the wildfires in California," and adding 150 of our firefighters are already prepared. And this is you have fire crews from several other states, as well as even Mexico and Canada, and nearly 1,000 incarcerated people from California's prison system helping fight the fires. So I will say with that last one, right, we've talked about it before, it is controversial because despite risking their lives, on average, they only make between $5.80 and $10.24 per day, which is why you've had many arguing that the program is exploitative and saying that they're not making enough money considering the risk they're taking. But this is reportedly for people behind bars, this is actually a very coveted job. Where reportedly most inmate fire crew members also receive time credits, often getting 2 days off their sentence for every day they serve on a crew. With one formerly incarcerated firefighter even telling the LA Times, "Every single firefighter that is out there right now, I'm sure they're proud to be there. But also every single one of those people has signed away their rights for any sort of compensation if they die on the fire ground." And then actually with all this, over the weekend, we got an even closer look into what this all looks like on the ground. With us seeing, among other things, political commentator Hassan Piker actually going out and interviewing some of the incarcerated firefighters on a stream. And one of the things you definitely see is them sort of echoing a sense of pride.
The return that we get is our second chance at life. This is a pilot program. A lot of us made decisions before our brain was able to develop, before the age of 25. So I mean, this is our second chance, and this is our second chance to prove it.
But these second chances, they're not always easy, with reports noting that once these inmates are released, many have trouble getting firefighting jobs even though they have all this experience. Which is why we saw Hassan writing and many agreeing that many deserve this chance, that they do not deserve to be cast aside and dehumanized. And among those who agree with this idea, you had Kim Kardashian, who advocated for them over the weekend, calling them heroes and urging Gavin Newsom to raise their wages. With some people even starting fundraisers to support incarcerated firefighters. But for now, that is where we are, though again, this is a rapidly developing situation and there are huge concerns over the next few days. So if you are out there, if you are near there, please be safe. If you get an evacuation order, follow it, but also with that, they say if you feel unsafe, if you see something, evacuate. And then with all of this, for anyone watching, I'd really love to know your thoughts on really any aspect. I know we covered a lot here, but I'd love to hear from you in those comments down below. And while you're maybe leaving that comment or you're just digesting that story, let me say, hey, welcome back to the Philip DeFranco Show, your daily dive into the news, how people are covering it, and how people are responding. It is once again looking like we are going to have a wild week, so just remember I will be here with you and for you on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. But then going back to the news, we really need to talk about how it's looking like TikTok is going to be banned in less than a week, and also talk about the world post-ban. Because this last Friday, the Supreme Court heard arguments over a law that would ban TikTok in the United States by January 19th if it's not sold by ByteDance, which is its China-based parent company. And even though right now nothing is set in stone, it does look like the court is likely to uphold the law. Now with that, there are still a lot of ways this could play out. Maybe it goes away, maybe it gets saved. No one knows. A lot is up in the air. But the prospect of the ban, it's no longer some like in the distance, mythical, hypothetical, far off notion. And starting with what we do know is that if it is banned, it will likely be removed from app stores very quickly, but if it's already on your phone, it probably won't disappear. It might go dark though, or at the very least, without updates, it will eventually become too buggy to use. And then also on that note, you had Forbes actually doing a report noting that there could be security risks for TikTok users who choose to keep the app on their phone post-ban. Because you may not realize it, but TikTok updates pretty frequently, and even though most bring new features or squash bugs, some also address security concerns. And so if millions and millions of people have an app that can't be updated in response to potential security threats, well, Forbes said that the app will just become a honeypot for attackers who want to exploit that vulnerability. And so with everything that's happening, it's not surprising to find that people are starting to look elsewhere for their scrolling needs. Now with that, there are some that would go, oh, well, they're just gonna go to Instagram Reels, but if you search Reels on TikTok, all you'll find are people saying, fuck Reels, fuck it in the face. Or whether it be that they just hate the content or functionality, or more recently the actions of its owner, there are a lot of people that aren't happy. And so instead, seemingly in part to stick it to the US government, some are choosing to download an app known in the States as RedNote, which you may or may not have heard of. But it is literally the #1 app in the App Store as I'm filming, with many calling it China's version of TikTok or Instagram, with places like TechCrunch explaining that it started back in 2013, and it hits a lot of the right notes for creators looking for a TikTok alternative, saying it has a layout that's similar to Pinterest. It is typically thought of as China's answer to Instagram, and critically, it boasts a number of social shopping features. And what we've seen is a lot of soon-to-be TikTok refugees very interested.
Like, would that not be the biggest due to the government ever of like, oh, you're gonna take TikTok away because you're worried about Chinese security threats? Just to show you how little we give a we are going to move to the actual Chinese version of this app.
And so also with that, we've seen TikTok blowing up of people who've already downloaded it, talking about now they're learning Mandarin thanks to the other users on the app already. Meanwhile, you also had others noting things like,
people are going there willingly and giving them their data willingly because these servers are located deep in China. So it's just interesting, you know, do they give TikTok back to us because of this? Like, it's like their worst fears